Consider supporting TnVGaming on Patreon.com for $1 a month. Link below in the description.
Imagine a single device that could allow you and anyone you knew to escape our world and become the savior or evildoer of another. Well, for over 20 years, PlayStation, a brand and platform owned by Sony Interactive Entertainment, has attempted to offer us, the players, that exact device. But greatness doesn't come without its struggles and obstacles, and in 2006, Sony would unknowingly release their greatest obstacle yet, the PlayStation 3. Sony would release their first console, the PlayStation, in 1994 to both critical and commercial success. So much so that Sony Computer Entertainment would go on to sell 100 million units around the world, and was the first company to ever manufacture a system to break the 100 million mark, setting a record in the gaming business. Their successor, the PlayStation 2, would build on the foundation that the PlayStation set forth, and from its launch in March of 2000 to its eventual discontinuation in 2013, would go on to sell an unprecedented 155 million units around the world before its discontinuation. This would make the PlayStation 2 the greatest selling home console of all time, and one of the longest supported systems in recent times. Naturally, after selling 255 million units across PlayStation and PlayStation 2, Sony Computer Entertainment and the rest of the gaming world had their eyes set on the future, and Sony hoped to bring the future of tomorrow home to the masses. The product of their endeavors and research and development would ultimately lead to the creation of the PlayStation 3, a multimedia device that would cost consumers $599 to purchase and Sony well over $900 to manufacture, according to reports from the time. This $600 machine, or $900 machine depending on your perspective, would lead the charge in gaming, multimedia, entertainment, and bleeding-edge technology. At least, that's what Sony thought. You see, the PlayStation 3 was home to quite a few state-of-the-art technologies, especially for its time. It featured the Blu-ray disc drive for media and gaming, SDHC, compact flash and memory stick Pro Duo card readers for photos and multimedia support, built-in Wi-Fi for connectivity to the internet as well as the online PlayStation Network ecosystem, 4 USB ports, and was the first and only console since to support the brand new Cell Broadband Engine architecture, which was a joint effort between Sony and IBM. It also even featured hardware-based backwards compatibility with PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games, creating the ultimate PlayStation package in one device. Of course, all of this doesn't mean much without control, and at launch, Sony would bundle every PlayStation 3 system with the brand new 6-axis wireless controller. While it is similar in size and form factor to the DualShock 2 and DualShock controllers, this controller in particular lacked the haptic feedback feature that was present in the two aforementioned controllers, and instead replaced them with 6-axis wireless motion sensors to compete with other consoles on the market. However, what Sony didn't realize was that they were ultimately creating their biggest challenge the company would ever face. These challenges would include product delays, having to delay the PlayStation 3's original March 2006 relaunch date to November of 2006 due to manufacturing glitches, errors, and material shortages used when manufacturing the Blu-ray disc drives that were housed within the PlayStation 3 system. Internal development conflicts, having to rework the entire system from the ground up to incorporate the RSX, or Reality Synthesizer GPU, as early conceptual builds of the PlayStation 3 shown at 2005 and before intended for the PlayStation 3's games and system software in the background to run entirely on the Cell Broadband Engine and its 8 SPEs, or Synergistic Processing Elements. and finally having to justify the highest price point of any console in the company's lineage and having to compete with a rival console that, although technically inferior, was cheaper and had a whole year head start on the market. But despite these issues, Sony would eventually deliver a product to the masses, but the $600 question remained: was the PlayStation 3 worth it? So, to help answer this question, Sony needed a way to capture the attention of consumers around the world, and would deploy one of their most interesting marketing campaigns in the company's history. Enter the Play Beyond campaign. Many of you may remember this particular marketing campaign. It was used from 2006 to 2009, and the central focus of it was the White Room. The Kubrickian simplicity of the White Room was used as a template to both exhilarate and educate consumers around the world of the complex technologies used within the PlayStation 3 and how they differentiated it from the competition. In many cases, these commercials proved to be extremely effective when it came to educating consumers. However, others ingrained themselves in the minds of players around the world for other reasons. Despite their best efforts, sales remained slow, and the world was wary of PlayStation's future. Some going so far as to say that the PlayStation 3 may have very well marked the end of Sony Computer Entertainment's run in the home console business. But price and bad public relations were the least of Sony's issues. The entire system architecture, led by the newly incorporated Cell broadband engine, led to multi-platform games looking far worse on the PlayStation 3 despite its technical superiority on the marketplace. With one noteworthy developer in particular being very outspoken of the plague of issues presenting themselves to programmers developing games for the PlayStation 3 system. After several price cuts, model revisions, cost-cutting measures, and persistently slow sales, something had to change. Sony Computer Entertainment needed an entire new path forward if they had any hopes to salvaging their beloved PlayStation brand. And in 2009, to get the ball rolling, Sony Computer Entertainment's global CEO, Kazuo Hirai, took the stage and announced the brand new, redesigned, rebranded PlayStation 3, starting at just $299. For many players, 2009 marked the rebirth of the PlayStation 3 as a platform, and for many players, this smaller, cheaper, redesigned PlayStation 3 system was their entry point into the PlayStation ecosystem for the first time. To sell the system to the masses, Sony scrapped everything they had done in the past and deployed a brand new marketing campaign. Enter the It Only Does Everything campaign, led by a very charismatic corporate fictional VP whose job title can never quite remain the same from ad to ad.
Dear PlayStation, I got a tip that you were making the PS3 $299. Confirm or deny?
$299? Bernie, you can't believe everything you read on the internet. That's how World War I got started. While $299 for the sweetest gaming, Blu-ray playing, movie downloading system in the world would be fantastic. No comment.
But all that stuff says $299. Right behind you.
I'm sorry, you said something?
It was through this campaign that Sony finally found a way to entertain, excite, and convince all those who witnessed this campaign that the PlayStation 3 was finally a worthwhile system for the consumers to invest in. The campaign even became self-aware, acknowledging the mistakes that Sony had made with the PlayStation 3's launch and how out of touch they were with the gaming landscape as a whole. This campaign wasn't just limited to ad space appearances though. Kevin Butler, the VP of even had his own Twitter accounts and YouTube accounts to interact and engage with PlayStation's fanatical fan base from around the world. This proved to be the most successful marketing campaign in the company's history and convinced a fair amount of players around the world to switch from the competition to the PlayStation 3. But marketing wasn't the sole reason for the PlayStation 3's successful rebirth in 2009. That same year marked a flood of incredible only on PlayStation title exclusives with games like Wipeout HD, Ratchet & Clank: A Crack in Time, Flower, Infamous, the God of War collection, Killzone 2, MLB09 The Show, and Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and many others from around the world began flooding the marketplace with titles that would eventually be critical and commercial successes. Building on the successful relaunch in 2009, Sony Computer Entertainment continued to develop, publish, and subsidize newly in-house developed IPs published only on the PlayStation 3, and as they did this, the PlayStation 3 began to exceed their forecasted market expectations and began chipping away at their competition's dominant market share. And in 2010, after 4 years of consecutive losses for Sony Computer Entertainment, the PlayStation 3 was finally turning a profit for the company. As developers began becoming more and more familiar with the Cell Broadband engine and the unique set of challenges that the architecture presented them with, games began looking better and better on the PlayStation 3. And some of the PlayStation 3's biggest critics began voicing their support with the platform with better looking and in some cases the best performing ports of AAA third-party games of the entire generation.
Stand by for an important announcement from the Aperture Science Emergency Surprise System. Deploying surprise in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, my name is Gabe Newell and I work at Valve. Now I've been pretty outspoken in my comments about the current generation of game consoles. So I'd really like to thank everyone at Sony for their gracious hospitality and for not repeatedly punching me in the face. If I seem a little nervous, it's because Kevin Butler was introduced to me backstage as the VP of sharpening things. I'm very pleased to announce that we'll be bringing Portal 2 to the PlayStation 3. I'm excited that Steam will be part of that experience, and I think that gamers will be delighted with features like Steam Cloud and automatic updates that will make the PlayStation 3 version of Portal 2 the best version on any console. So now, for the very first time, let's take a look at Portal 2.
But it didn't stop there. In 2010, Sony Computer Entertainment announced their newest addition to the PlayStation Network's line of services, PlayStation Plus, featuring the Instant Game Collection. With this subscription service, players could subscribe to access to premium features such as beta trials, early in-game testing, PlayStation Store discounts across the board, automatic updates to the PlayStation 3 system software. In addition, Sony would grant users access to cloud storage for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita game save files, and they would cycle through the free games that were available for each platform every month. And despite all these additions, access to the PlayStation Network's online multiplayer infrastructure would remain free on PlayStation 3 even to this day. That next year, and every year thereafter, third and first-party releases would remain strong on the platform. It was around this time that Sony Computer Entertainment once again decided to trim down, cut costs, and redesign the PlayStation 3 system once again. The result was the PlayStation 3 Super Slim, the third and final revision of the PlayStation 3 system in its life cycle. The PlayStation 3 Super Slim essentially shipped with three main hard disk drive variants: a 12GB flash version designed primarily for users to upgrade themselves, a 250GB standard version, and a premium 500GB hard disk. The Super Slim would also ship in four main color variants in all the major territories. Now, I can only speak for the US when I say this, but the charcoal black was our standard model. The classic white, which is what you see here, shipped with the Instant Game Collection bundle. The garnet red variant shipped with the God of War Legacy Edition, and the azurite blue PlayStation 3 Super Slim was available only at GameStop for a limited time. The PlayStation 3's life cycle is one that could only be best described as one that was full of turbulence, as Sony had to work to correct all of their mistakes. But it would reward players in the long run, as Sony Computer Entertainment began having to work around the clock to win back their loyal audiences that they had lost to the cheaper competition and in lieu of their own arrogance. The result was arguably one of the most critically acclaimed, best-looking, most diverse game libraries of any console in the 7th generation of systems. It was through the struggles, failures, and the hard lessons learned of the PlayStation 3 that Sony would take the knowledge they've learned to ensure that history would never repeat itself, and would apply that knowledge to their next big project, Project Orbis. But that's a story for another day.